Welcome back to the Wargrove of Well, and in today's video we're going to be updating my first ever video, the Sylvaneth Battleline. This is updated to the Age of Sigmar 3rd edition Sylvaneth Battletome, and it includes all of the conditional battle line. Without further ado, let's get started. Before we get into the ins and outs of all the battle line options, here are some army-wide rules to keep in mind as we're talking about these various units. All of these units will get access to the sub-faction abilities. All of them can heal 1 wound in your hero phase if they're near overgrown terrain or wildwood. Keep in mind that this does not return dead models, it only heals. All of them can wildwood teleport or overgrown terrain teleport, and all of them have access to Strike and Fade and the Season of War ability. First up is the Humble Dryads. They come in at 100 points. They have 10 models by default, and their stat line is 7-inch move, 6 bravery, 1 wound, and a 5-up save. They have 1 melee profile, the Racking Talons, 2-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3 for the leader, 4 is to hit, 4 is to wound, no rend, 1 damage. Their only unique ability is that when enemies target them, if the Dryad unit is wholly within 9 inches of a wildwood, then the enemy gets -1 to hit and wound them. It's a very defensive buff to the Dryads that we will explore in the next slide. Dryads are your cheapest battle line option, and they are all about defense. They are good at holding the line if that line is near a wildwood or something that infers being near a wildwood. And they can be really frustrating to get rid of with a lot of defense and regeneration and healing and all of the things you can stack on them. But beyond their defensive abilities, they are fairly lackluster. Don't expect them to do much of any damage once they get into melee. But for things that you can do to make them even more frustrating, Mystic Shield, the Lady of Vine's Ward, giving other abilities to the Dryads just to make them that much more frustrating to get rid of. Also, consider taking them in larger units so you can have the opportunity to regenerate them with Verdant Harmony, the Deepwood lore spell that can return D3 slain Dryads to your unit in your hero phase. Next up, we have the Tree Revenants, the only other non-conditional battle line option for Sylvaneth, and they come in at 110 points for 5 models. They have a stat line of 5-inch move, 6 bravery, 2 wounds each, and a 5-up save. They have 2 melee profiles, the Enchanted Blade, 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, 1 damage, and then the Protector Glaive, 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, 2 damage. The leader of the unit can either take the Protector Glaive or he can get +2 attacks for the Enchanted Blade. Mathematically, they're vaguely similar in terms of damage output. It's more just kind of, do you prefer weight of dice or fewer dice but higher value? I personally like the Protector Glaive, but that's mostly just because I like the way the model looks with the Protector Glaive. 1 in 5 of the Tree Revenants can have a banner, which gives a 6-inch pile-in instead of 3 inches. And then, importantly, 1 in 5 can have a waypipe, which gives unrestricted teleportation. So you don't need to be near wildwoods, and you can teleport to any spot in the map as long as it's outside of 9 inches of an enemy. This is huge, fantastic utility unit. And then lastly, once per battle round, they can get the all-out attack or all-out defense without spending a CP. Tree Revenants are all about that utility. They are probably one of the best utility units in the game for their points cost. You can force the opponent to consider your teleportation shenanigans and kind of have them hold their punches just so they can protect their backline or an objective from getting teleported on. It's a very unique and a very fantastic ability. But outside of their utility, they're fairly middle of the pack when it comes to offensive and defensive output. I would always consider adding at least 1 Tree Revenant unit to your list because the teleportation is just too good to pass up. Moving on to the bread and butter of Sylvaneth, the Kurnoth Hunters with their various weapons. The Great Bows are 230 points for 3 of them, and the other melee variants are 250 for 3 of them. They are considered battle line in the Heartwood subfaction. They have a 5-inch move, 7 bravery, 5 wounds, and a 3-up save. The various melee profiles that they can get access to are the Kurnoth Greatsword, 1-inch reach, 4 attacks, 5 for the leader, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, 2 damage, or the Great Scythe, 2-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4 for the leader, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 3 rend, 2 damage, and then the Vicious Claws for the melee profile for the Great Bows, 1-inch reach, 3 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. And then the Great Bows themselves, 30-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3 for the leader, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, 2 damage. They have some shared unique abilities between the 3 units. All of them can do some damage at the end of the combat phase. If you roll 4 up, you roll the number of dice equal to the number of Kurnoth Hunters in your unit. All of them, while they are contesting an objective, make other Sylvaneth units nearby considered within 6 of overgrown train features. The swords, 6s to hit, deal 2 mortal wounds, and the scythes, if an enemy piles in within 3 of them, they suffer 1 mortal wound. Kurnoth Hunters are probably the best or one of the best units in the Sylvaneth roster. They are your go-to for damage output, defense, ranged power. It's all here. You have high rend, you have some mortal wound output. Really, you cannot go wrong with a Kurnoth Hunter unit. There is not necessarily a bad choice when it comes to weapons. They're all fine. I personally like the great swords. The scythes are fine, and the 3 rend is really good. But in my opinion, the ability to do mortal wound output is much more valuable than just having rend. It's kind of 2 solutions to the same problem, I guess. But the great bows are also nice just to kind of have this pseudo artillery piece in the back line, planking off howitzer shells into your opponent's key targets just to kind of chip them away and make sure you're doing damage in most phases of the game. On to the first of 2 new units for Sylvaneth. We have the Revenant Seekers. They come in at 235 points for 3 Seekers. They're Battleline in the Harvest Foon subfaction. They have 12-inch move, 7 bravery, 5 wounds each, and a 4-up save. They have 2 melee profiles, the Seeker Sickle, 2-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4 for the leader, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 2 rend, 1 damage, or 2 damage, excuse me. The Sharp Mandibles, 2-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, 1 damage. For unique abilities, 1 and 3 can have a banner, which gives a 6-inch pylon. 1 and 3 can have a horn, which lets you rally on a 5-up. And once per turn, you can pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit within 12, wholly within 12, that has 5 wounds or less, and on a 2-up you can return 1 slain model. And then lastly, at the end of each phase, if any enemy models were slain by this unit, you can heal all wounds allocated to this unit. Revenant Seekers are a fantastic heavy cavalry support unit, and they are best paired with Kurnoth Hunters. That ability to just return 1 Kurnoth Hunter with a 2-up is super powerful, and their staying power and their damage output is good, so consider pairing them with your Kurnoth Hunter frontline. I think that they are best taken in minimum squad size and just kind of have them floating around your various heavy hitters to return units or to harass your opponents. Before I move on, I'd like to give thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing, and I am very thankful for all of you. An extra special thanks to Nick Hoff. If you'd like to become a Patreon member, there's a link in the description, as well as a link to my Discord channel. So come on over and hang out. Then we have the Spite Rider Lancers. They come in at 210 points. They are Battleline in the Harvest Boon subfaction. They have a stat line of 14-inch move, 7 bravery, 5 wounds, and a 4-up save. They have 2 melee profiles, the Spite Rider Lance, 2-inch reach, 4 attacks, 5 for leader, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 2 rend, 1 damage. And then the Sharp Mandibles, it's the exact same profile as the previous riders. They have the banner and the horn that the previous riders had. The thing that makes them unique is that if they charge, they get the Strike First ability, meaning that you get to pick one unit because it was your charge phase, and then you can pick this unit. So you get two attacks before your opponent can get in, or however many Lancers you have. The Lancers are the light cavalry variant of the Seeker Revenants. They are less offensive, but they are faster and more agile in that they can strike first. But personally, I would consider them weaker than Seekers because the Spite Rider's niche of being fast and mobile is already covered by other units or just by the core of Sylvaneth existing. But they're still not bad by any means. I just think that there are better options. Onto the Spite Revenants, they come in at 105 points, and they are battle line in the Dreadwood subfaction. These guys are some of my favorite units to take, and they are really fun to play with. They have a stat line of 5-inch move, 6 bravery, 2 wounds each, and a 5-up save. They have 1 melee profile, the Cruel Talons and Fangs, 1-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4 for the leader, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, 1 damage, but their unique ability, 6 to hit, deal 1 mortal wound. Spite Revenants are a terrifying melee threat with their weight of dice and fishing for mortal wound 6s is super scary to go up against. They can rip most things to shreds, but they are very squishy. They are not going to stand up to much, and so you need to be very careful with how you use them. I would say they are tied with Kurnoth Hunters in terms of their offensive power. To best utilize Spites, you should consider how you're going to deliver them to your target. Are you going to teleport? Are you going to have some screens? What are you going to do to get these Spites where they need to go? Because it's not going to take much for them to just fall over. And lastly, we have the Treelord. They come in at 260 points, and they are battle line in the Oak and Brows subfaction. They have a stat line of 5-inch move, 7 bravery, 14 wounds, and a 3-up save. They have 2 melee profiles, the Sweeping Blows, which has 3-inch reach, a degrading chart for attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, 2 damage, and then the Massive Impaling Talons, 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3s to hit, degrading chart for wounds, 2 rend, 3 damage. They have a missile profile, the Strangle Root, 12-inch reach, 3 attacks, a degrading chart for hits, 3s to wound, 1 rend, and 2 damage. For unique abilities, they have a unique monstrous rampage that gives an enemy unit a fight last on a 3-up. Additionally, they have a wildwood teleportation that is separate from your allegiance ability, and if any units that hit in melee, the unit that they hit cannot pile in. The Treelords' main role is that they have a lot of utility and they are really tanky. They are fantastic to have spread throughout your lines and be there to dish out some debuffs and otherwise annoy your opponent, but they are no slouches in combat, and they have a lot of wounds and a good save, meaning that they're fairly tanky as well. So that was all of the new Sylvaneth Battleline. Sylvaneth are one of the strongest armies right now, and a lot of their Battleline choices reflect that. They don't really have any bad choices. All of their Battleline can fit and work in some capacity. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment, and if you want to see more of this type of content in the future, consider subscribing. This has been the Wargrove of Well, and I'll talk to you guys next time.